Good morning to you. It is Thursday, November 29th, and this is Fox and Friends First, happening right now at 4 a.m. here on the East Coast. A Fox News alert for you. Listen to this. A violent MS-13 gang member found embedded in the caravan, and that's not all. Well, we just learned about the serious health risk being carried by the thousands of migrants waiting to cross the border. We are live in Tijuana. And the tables could be turning on Robert Mueller after one of his latest targets lawyers up the accusations against the special counsel and the new questions of credibility after his team's latest leak.
You're on the list finally, and then about 2 years into that, it's like, I'm never going to get a call. All of this was God, 100%.
And just call it divine intervention. Meet the man thanking God for making a split-second decision that saved his life. Fox and Friends First starts right now. From the streets of New York City for you this morning. The lights came on a couple of really big trees we're going to show you in just a moment overnight. Good morning to you. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday morning. I'm Heather Childers. Thank you for starting your day with us, as always. Well, straight to that Fox News alert. Border agents arrest an MS-13 gang member traveling with a migrant caravan. This, as Fox News exclusively learns of some serious health risk that some of those migrants could bring into the U.S. Griff Jenkins is live for us in Tijuana, Mexico, with more. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Heather. His name is Jose Villalobos Jobel, a 29-year-old Honduran man traveling with the 2,000 of the 8,000 migrants in the caravan in Mexicali. He crossed at the Calexico port of entry when authorities took him in custody, and he is a self-admitted member of the MS-13 dangerous gang. The Customs and Border Protection issuing this statement saying Villalobos confirmed his story of his gang involvement and intent on entering the United States illegally, but as you mentioned, that is certainly not the only concern. Serious health risks are traveling in this caravan. We spoke with the spokesperson for Tijuana's health department, who gave us these numbers that they have treated 2,267 migrants, over 60% with respiratory infections, 3 confirmed cases of tuberculosis, 4 cases of HIV/AIDS, 101 cases of lice, 4 cases of chickenpox, and hepatitis is now a real concern because of the unsanitary conditions. You have over 6,000 people crammed in this space intended for 1,000 here just behind me. We spoke with one of those migrants, Marco Munoz from Honduras, who's seeking asylum, and he says that he feels like he was lied to from the organizers from the beginning, and he's worried we're reaching a breaking point. Listen.
They lied to us from the beginning, so most of these people are disappointed, and getting frustrated at the time. So, as you can see, every day that passes, it's more and more people that are coming. So it's going to be a point break where they're just going to say, let's rush in there,
Finally, Heather, it's been raining at times heavily on and off here. It is wet, it is cold, and it is going to take a toll even further on this caravan as we continue to monitor it. Heather?
Yeah, wet, cold, and clearly dangerous. Griff Jenkins, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Well, in other news, another story that we've been following for you, we now can tell you the names of the 3 U.S. Special Ops troops killed on the deadliest day in Afghanistan this year. Army Captain Andrew Ross, Army Sergeant First Class Eric Emmons, and Air Force Staff Sergeant Dylan Elchin died after their vehicle hit an explosive. 3 other American soldiers and a contractor, they were also injured near Kabul. 12 American heroes have died in Afghanistan this year. Well, President Trump will head to Argentina today for the annual G20 summit. He is expected to meet with several world leaders, including Russian President Vladimir Putin. According to the Kremlin, they will discuss anti-terrorism efforts, Syria, and North Korea denuclearization. President Trump will also hold talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping over rising trade tensions, and we will cover all of it for you, for sure. Well, a key witness in the Russia probe now intending to file a criminal complaint against Robert Mueller, just as a top Democrat demands President Trump sit down with a special counsel. Todd Piper joins us now live with the latest developments as we get a look at the president's written answers to Mueller. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning to you, Heather. In the latest shocking twist in the Russia probe, conservative author Jerome Corsi with a bombshell that he plans to go after Robert Mueller and his team in the courts.
What the special prosecutor is asking me to do is accept a fraudulent plea, which I am going to have my attorneys file criminal charges on with the Department of Justice. My experience made it clear to me that the political criminals are running the Department of Justice and Mueller's prosecution. They misbehaved, and they accused me of being a liar and a fabricator.
Corsi adding via tweet, quote, "I have retained attorney Larry Klayman to assist David Gray in my defense. In a memo to my attorneys, I have instructed Klayman and Gray to file with acting AG Whitaker a criminal complaint against Mueller's special counsel and the DOJ for prosecutorial misconduct in my case." Yet despite this, Democrat Adam Schiff calling for President Trump to sit down for an in-person interview with Mueller, saying the president's written answers weren't enough.
There really needs to be a live interview with the president because you need to be able to ask follow-up questions in real time.
All this coming as leaks of those written answers are coming out, specifically two key points. One, President Trump telling Mueller that Roger Stone did not tell him about the Clinton WikiLeaks documents. And two, that Trump wasn't told about that 2016 Trump Tower meeting with a Russian lawyer claiming to have dirt on Hillary Clinton. As you might imagine, the president had something to say about all this, tweeting, "While the disgusting fake news is doing everything within their power not to report it that way, at least three major players are intimating that the angry Mueller gang of Dems is viciously telling witnesses to lie about facts and they will get relief. This is our Joseph McCarthy era." So what about Paul Manafort, you ask? Well, there are reports that Manafort reportedly gave untruthful statements to Mueller about his relationship with a Ukrainian associate, leading to the end of his plea deal, also leading to the president saying a pardon for his embattled former campaign manager is, quote, not off the table. That's a lot to pack into 2 minutes, Heather.
It sure is, but you covered it all for us, and we're going to talk more about it coming up.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Todd.
Right.
Well, Stormy Daniels calling out her attorney, Michael Avenatti. She claims that he filed a defamation lawsuit against President Trump without her permission. And Daniels also telling the Daily Beast that he started a second crowdfunding site for her legal expenses without telling her. Avenatti says that she started the new campaign to cover legal fees because most of the money so far has gone to her security. Daniels has not decided if Avenatti will still represent her. Well, Nancy Pelosi is one step closer to becoming House Speaker. Democrats voted behind closed doors yesterday to nominate her for the job. The final tally, 203 to 32. Some of those Democrats opposed her nomination in recent weeks, saying that they want fresh leadership. Now, Pelosi will need 218 votes when the entire House meets. That will be in January to officially regain the title. And the Senate is set to hold a tense confirmation vote on one of President Trump's judicial nominees today. Thomas Farr is facing some stiff resistance from Senate Democrats who claim that he's hostile to union voter rights, amongst some other things. Meanwhile, the Senate Judiciary Committee canceled votes on nearly 24 other nominees. All of this is going on amid outgoing Republican Senator Jeff Flake's pledge to oppose all court picks until he gets a vote on a bill to protect special counsel Mueller. More on that coming up. But in the meantime, how about this? It is beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
3, 2, 1.
Beautiful. The Rockefeller Center Christmas tree all lit up and topped with a 9-foot Swarovski star made of 3 million crystals. And then in Washington, the president and the first lady taking part in the 96th annual National Christmas Tree lighting. The 28-foot blue spruce is decorated with ornaments from every state and territory. So I guess it is officially Christmas time. Well, the time now, though, is about 9 minutes after the top of the hour, and Republicans blocking another bill to protect special counsel Robert Mueller as President Trump lashes out against the Russia probe. So what happens next on Capitol Hill? We'll talk about it up next.
We cannot convert an office like this one without creating a de facto fourth branch of government, fundamentally undermining the principle of separation of powers that is so core to our liberty. And on that basis, Madam President, I object.
A second attempt by some of President Trump's top critics to protect Robert Mueller's probe is shot down yet again after Republican Mike Lee takes the Senate floor, objecting to the bill's unconstitutionality. Here now to react is the former Chief of Staff for Senator Lee, Boyd Matheson. Thank you very much for joining us so early this morning. We appreciate it.
You bet.
So the first time around, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell blocked this. This time, your former boss did so. What do you think about it?
So, you know, it is one of those procedural things on the floor of the Senate. They were trying to pass this bill by what is known as unanimous consent. In other words, with nobody in the room, it just passes because no one's there to object. It only takes one senator to object on these kinds of resolutions. So I'm not surprised by that. As you heard from Senator Lee himself, this is really one of those where in so many areas, Congress continues to abdicate its power and authority to the executive branch and to the courts. And this is one area where it's almost a solution in search of a problem. There's been no evidence that shows that the Mueller investigation has been watered down, that it's been inhibited, or that it's going to be stopped before it concludes. And so this is one of those where I think the senator is simply trying to make sure we preserve and do not create in the process a fourth branch of government.
And I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, you know, talking about it not happening so far, Sarah Sanders said, you know, the president's had ample opportunity to do this. He has not done it so far. So his, you know, let his actions speak for what he's said over and over he's not going to do. But this de facto fourth branch of government, explain that a little bit more.
So what this would, in essence, do, we have to remember that after the advice and consent that the Senate is supposed to do with the Department of Justice, the Department of Justice then reports to the president. And so setting it up as this quasi-fourth branch where it's kind of independent of everything else is just bad precedent. And this is also one of those where I think it represents really the worst of what happens here in Washington, and that is we create this fake fight and then we present this false choice. I haven't seen any evidence anywhere that shows that the president is ready to shut this thing down or is in the middle of it trying to stop things from happening. And so I think everyone needs to exhale just a little bit, let this play out. I think Mr. Mueller is going to get his work done. He's going to issue his report, and then everybody should step forward and move on.
Well, a lot of those who are pushing for this move point to some of President Trump's tweets, and lately there's been a lot of them. Here's one that he sent out yesterday saying that while the disgusting fake news is doing everything within their power not to report it that way, at least three major players are intimating that the angry Mueller gang of Dems is viciously telling witnesses to lie about facts and they will get relief. This is our Joseph McCarthy era. And we just had Todd Pyro in here earlier reporting about it, saying that, you know, the very latest Jerome Corsi is filing a criminal complaint saying just that they're trying to force him to lie.
So I think what we have to do, though, is we have to separate the rhetoric from the policy and the procedures. And it's very easy to conflate all of those and lump them into one big thing. But again, there's nothing that shows that anything has changed, nor has there been any evidence come out in terms of any kind of collusion or any of the other things that Mr. Mueller is supposed to be investigating anyway. And so everyone has to just exhale a little bit, step back. This is not a national crisis moment because I think Mr. Mueller is going to do his job the way he's supposed to. It's the reason he has the job. And I don't think any tweet from the president is going to impact how he does that job. And again, everyone just needs to exhale just a little bit and step forward. There's a lot of really pressing issues, and we shouldn't be distracted by one that isn't really there. Yeah, I'm summarizing here, but Mitch McConnell said something the other day. He said, you know, our southern border needs protection. I don't think that Bob Mueller needs protection. Bob, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it. Thanks, Heather. Well, the time now is about 17 minutes after the top of the hour, and Google accused of illegally tracking millions of users worldwide. Cybersecurity expert Lisa Garber here to break down what this means for you and your privacy, and she is here live.
Well, he's a familiar name to you. Jesse Ventura, remember him? He's considering a 2020 White House run, and he's already taking shots at President Trump, the pro wrestler who later became governor of Minnesota, telling TMZ, quote, "If I do it, Trump will not have a chance. He knows he can never out-talk a wrestler, and he knows I'm the greatest talker wrestling's ever had." The 67-year-old served one term as Minnesota governor. He also considered running for president back in 2016. So we'll see. And the end may be near for Rocky. Coming off the release of Creed 2, actor Sylvester Stallone posting in part on Instagram, quote, though it breaks my heart, sadly all things must pass and end. Rocky will never die because he lives on in you. As Stallone first started portraying Rocky Balboa way back in 1976, but he's still running strong. Well, let's talk about Google. Google is now facing worldwide scrutiny over the way it tracks its users after 7 European watchdog agencies filed some complaints accusing the tech giant of using deceptive and manipulative techniques against its millions of users. So what comes next for the company, and what rights do you have? Here to weigh in is attorney and data cybersecurity expert Lisa Garber. We always love having you with us.
Great to see you,
Thank
Heather.
you. So what's the primary complaint here? What's going on?
The primary complaint, and this is not just in the EU, it's in the U.S. as well, and there's an action pending in California because the state law is very strong there. But basically, Google is being very deceptive in how it tracks users' data and how users can control what Google is actually tracking, keeping, and how they're using and selling that data.
So how is it that they're being deceptive?
They're deceptive in that there are so many layers where this data resides and where you actually would have to toggle off and make that decision. And it's also very difficult to actually find these layers. So you might go to, on an iPhone, the location privacy setting. On an Android, it's somewhere else. But then there are applications that are connected to Google. What happens if you're logged into your Gmail account and you're in a web browser? There are all these different places to look, and it's nearly impossible to turn all of it off.
Right, making it incredibly complicated. We have a couple of statements here. This is from the Norwegian Consumer Council. Their statement: Google is processing incredibly detailed and extensive personal data without proper legal grounds, and the data has been acquired through manipulation techniques, as you were just saying. But then we have Google and their statement on location tracking. Location history is turned off by default, and you can edit, delete, or pause it at any time. If you pause it, we make clear that depending on your individual phone and app settings, we might still collect and use location data to improve your Google experience. So what's the point of pausing it to begin with?
Exactly. And I don't want to gloss over the fact that when you have it turned on, yes, it's easier to view the traffic in your normal route, because when you are looking at all the places this location data is used, think about your daily routine. So it's tracking your walk to work, your commute, all of these things. It can really put together a comprehensive profile on who you are as a person, what you enjoy doing, what your daily routine looks like. So a piece of it is helpful to your user experience, but at the same time, where's the privacy control? And that's what the EU is concerned about.
So do users have a case against Google here?
They definitely have a case, and Google should be concerned because in the EU especially, this general data protection regulation, which was released in May of this year, there's a penalty of up to 4% of Google's annual revenue if they've broken this privacy promise they've made with EU citizens and residents. In the US, our privacy laws aren't as strong, but in California, their regulations definitely have teeth, and there's a question right now about iPhone and Android users with their Google privacy settings.
So what steps should a user take if they're concerned about it?
Users have to become extremely aware of the controls that they have in their Google account. So you have to realize what of your social media accounts, your shopping accounts, everything that's connected to your Google profile itself. Then become familiar with your phone and your laptop. Take a look at the controls, toggle on and off, see what it looks like, maybe take a review of the privacy policy, even though they're extremely complicated, but just become aware of how ingrained this data is in your everyday life.
And you really do have to look at all of the individual apps for sure.
It's so important because Google is so prevalent. It's everywhere.
It is. All right. Thank you so much. Great to have you with us.
Great to see you.
Good information. Well, the time now is about 25 minutes after the top of the hour. President Trump leaving for the G20 summit in just hours from now as a sit down with Vladimir Putin remains up in the air. Why former CIA station chief in Moscow, Dan Hoffman, says that the president needs to send a big public message to the Russian president.
bunch of Grinches, and they're always going to be a Grinch. You can never make them happy.
And Christmas controversy, why one town is forcing a homeowner to pay thousands of dollars just for his holiday display. Welcome back. You're watching Fox and Friends First. Investigators searching for answers after finding the body of a missing North Carolina teenager.
This is the outcome that we all feared that was going to happen. We will not stop until we find the person or persons responsible and we bring them to justice.
Well, the FBI says they found the body of Hania Aguilar in a pond 10 miles from her home where she was abducted earlier this month. Witnesses say a man forced her into a car and then drove off. There's a $30,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest. Well, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey back on the hot seat after concerns that he may have lied under oath. At the Federalist, reporting House lawmakers are reviewing his September testimony after Twitter banned a conservative commentator this week. Meanwhile, the CEO of Google is expected to testify next week over concerns that his company could be biased against conservative users. Let us know what you think about that. Well, President Trump's long-awaited peace deal in the Middle East may soon be unveiled. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations saying that the White House intends to roll out its proposal early next year before Israeli elections could happen early summer. President Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner has played a major role in drafting the plan for peace between Israel and the Palestinians. Well, how about this story? A man is thanking God after a split-second decision saves his life. Bill Castleman has been waiting for a kidney transplant for 4 years. He and his wife left their Thanksgiving getaway early to get back to their Kansas City home before a blizzard hit. Well, when they arrived, doctors called and told him they found a match.
You're on the list finally, and then about 2 years into that, it's like, I'm never going to get a call. All of this was God. 100%.
And here's the thing, if he had not returned that day, the kidney could have gone to another patient. He's expected to leave the hospital soon, and we wish him well. Well, a touching tribute for a police officer and a Marine veteran hit and killed in the line of duty. A stranger decorating and donating Christmas trees to honor his memory. Well, John Franke from our Fox affiliate in Salt Lake City shows us the powerful holiday display.
As the holidays approach, so many stories will be shared around Christmas trees.
This is in honor of Officer David Romrell.
These trees, decorated in honor of fallen South Salt Lake police officer David Romrell, are inspiring people to tell theirs.
You guys do too much, so thank you.
Thank you.
The display was donated by a woman with no connection to Romrell or South Salt Lake police.
Last few days have been rough. They've been a roller coaster of emotion.
The gesture helping relieve some of that tremendous grief.
That outpouring has been heartfelt, and it's been incredible.
He hugged scores of people who shared how they're personally affected by this tragedy.
I just lost a nephew in Afghanistan.
One of those, a man who knows all too well what Romrell's friends and family are going through.
What was his name?
This is Brent Taylor, my nephew.
There's no cure for the pain this tragedy has caused.
Just reminds you of what's important in life.
Absolutely.
But in this dark time, these trees offering a glimmer of light and hope.
We definitely had, unique bonds that I served in the Marine Corps before I got into law enforcement.
Helping strangers heal together.
It's my privilege.
Well, the Kremlin now confirming that Vladimir Putin will meet with President Trump on Saturday after the president hinted that he may cancel over Russia's clash with Ukraine near the Black Sea. Should he confront Putin over Russia's brazen attack on one of our allies? Here to weigh in, former CIA station chief who has served in Moscow, Iraq, and Pakistan, for our Fox News contributor, Daniel Hoffman. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good morning.
So we mentioned that President Trump hinted that he may not have this meeting. Here's what he said. Maybe I won't even have that meeting. I don't want that aggression at all. So should he have the meeting or not?
Well, I think he should have the meeting. Let's remember that Russia fired upon and seized 3 Ukrainian vessels in violation of international law and a bilateral treaty between Russia and Ukraine. And then at the height of hypocrisy, even by Russian standards, they blamed the government of Poroshenko for causing a provocation. I think there's no question that the United States needs to take the lead in responding with concrete countermeasures. But before we do so, I think the president should issue a public rebuke of Putin, and no better place to do it than the G20 summit.
And so what should the U.S. do in response?
Well, I think there's a variety of options open to us. Certainly we can sanction Russia some more. We can consider deploying NATO contingents to the Black and Azov Seas to enforce free transit in those very strategic waters. We can consider the provision of lethal maritime assistance and material and equipment to Ukraine.
What does that mean, lethal maritime assistance? What is that?
We could shore up their naval defenses. The Trump administration, in contrast to the Obama administration, took a concrete measure by providing Javelin anti-tank weapons to Ukraine, and we might be able to augment their naval capability so that they can enhance their deterrence against the Russians. And the last thing I would say is we need to argue our points in the public sphere as well, and highlight to Putin's own people that Vladimir Putin is causing great problems for his own economy by mounting this sort of aggression on his neighbor.
What about U.S. troops?
I think in this case, certainly it's worthy of a discussion about whether we want to put any boots on the ground in Ukraine. We have trainers there assisting the Ukrainians with those Javelin anti-tank systems, but I would think that maybe a NATO contingent might be the right way to go. Certainly some discussion is worthy in this case.
Yeah, and in terms of other countries at the summit, how should they get involved, or how will they get involved in these discussions?
Well, I'd like to see the United States take the lead. I think Ukrainian sovereignty is worth defending. It's something for which we should draw a red line, and we should enforce it. The United States has traditionally taken the lead against Soviet and Russian aggression, and I think we should be able to bring some of our key allies along, particularly the UK, Germany, France. Not to mention those countries in the region, some of our NATO allies like the Baltic states, Poland, for example, who are very, very concerned about Russian aggression.
Yeah. Daniel Hoffman, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your insight, as always.
Thank you.
Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour. And he helped broker a shady deal with Iran, but apparently thinks that he could be the best to take down President Trump in 2020. Carly Shimkus live up next with the big hint former Secretary of State John Kerry just dropped. He helped broker a shady deal with Iran, but apparently thinks that he could be the best candidate to take down President Trump in 2020.
I said I'm not going to eliminate, I'm not taking anything off the table. I haven't been running around to the most obvious states laying any groundwork or doing anything. Yeah, I'm going to think about it. I said that point blank.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines, 24/7 Sirius XM 115. Here with reaction to the potential run from former Secretary of State John Kerry. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Heather. So the former presidential candidate may be interested in throwing his hat back in the ring, saying issues like climate change and foreign policy are too important for him not to consider it. Now, Kerry adding his name to an already large pool of people, including Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and Beto O'Rourke, and this becoming a major talker on social media. One Twitter user wants him to take his name off the table. Another Twitter user, Ed, says, well, pretty much everyone is running for president in 2020. And Liz also chiming in saying, appreciate the help, but let's get someone new. President Trump actually encouraged Kerry to run in September, suggesting on Twitter that he would be easy to beat.
Yes, he has suggested several names for them. Right. Let's talk about the White House Christmas decorations, because I think they're beautiful.
Okay. Yes, I agree. I didn't think that they were anything to criticize, but did you see that row of bright red trees? That is the decoration in particular that people criticized, and the First Lady addressed that criticism recently. Take a listen.
We are in 21st century and everybody has a different taste. I think they look fantastic. I hope everybody will come over and visit it. In real life, they look even more beautiful, and you're all very welcome to visit the White House.
All right, so some people call that row of trees the hallway of Yuletide murders, I guess because they're red in color. But for the most part, people enjoy the decorations. Jeff saying they look absolutely perfect. And then another Twitter user chiming in saying, once again, our First Lady shows her elegance, poise, and character. So some high praise along with
I don't know. A lot of people saying it's also just another example of no matter what happens, they'll have some sort of criticism.
Bingo.
Well, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald honoring John McCain.
Yeah, that's right. So he has a special pair of cleats that he's going to wear this coming weekend, and they honor both John McCain and Pat Tillman. This is part of the My Cleats, My Cause initiative that the NFL runs every year. As you know, Larry Fitzgerald and the late John McCain were pretty close friends, with Fitzgerald even speaking at his memorial service. Meghan McCain thanking him for the honor, saying, "This is so special. Thank you, Larry Fitzgerald. My father would have loved this. Thank you for your continued love and friendship for my father and for the amazing hero, Pat Tillman." So Fitzgerald getting a lot of praise on social media. A lot of people calling him a class act. And so he's using these special pair of cleats to honor two very special people.
Yeah, good looking cleats, too, by the way.
Very much so.
All right, thank you so much, Carly.
Thanks a lot, Heather.
Well, coming up, sliding sales, how Dick's Sporting Goods gun ban just backfired big time. Plus, President Trump ready to reach across the aisle on some key issues.
Democrats will come to us with a plan for infrastructure, a plan for health care, and we'll negotiate.
But with Nancy Pelosi potentially back at the wheel, will anything really get done? Walkaway founder Brandon Straka says don't count on it. He's here up next. After the Dow spikes more than 600 points, Tracy Crosco from our sister network, Fox Business, joins us with what sparked the surge. Good morning.
Good morning, Heather. Yes, we saw stocks surging yesterday following Fed Chairman Jerome Powell's comments yesterday about the interest rates. He said that they are close to neutral. Now, a close to neutral interest rate means that inflation is stable, that the economy is on a sustainable path. And traders took this to mean that maybe we will not see as many interest rate hikes in 2019. Of course, this is kind of an about face from comments he made back in October when he said we are a long way from neutral. So you did see the numbers from yesterday. We saw gains on the Dow of 617 points. The S&P 500 jumped up by 61 points. The tech-heavy NASDAQ up by 208. Now, the only thing that might derail this rally that we're seeing, of course, the upcoming G20 summit in Argentina. President Trump set to meet with China's president to talk about trade.
Yeah, several big issues expected to come up there. Let's talk about Dick's Sporting Goods. Warning about gun policy. There's a backlash big time for them, though.
Yes, sales at Dick's Sporting Goods have dropped in the last 3 months. This as the store faces some backlash following its tighter gun sale restrictions. You can see sales revenue down 4.5% to $1.86 billion. Now, back in February, Dick's raised the age that you must be 21 to purchase a gun. They also said they'd stop selling assault rifles, this following the school shooting in Parkland, Florida. Dick's also saying that they would consider stop selling hunting equipment and supplies in order to switch that out with higher profit products.
All right. Tracy Crosco, thank you so much for joining us this morning,
Thanks.
as always. Well, let's talk about President Trump offering to work with Democrats as they prepare to take control of the House.
We have a much easier path because the Democrats will come to us with a plan for infrastructure, a plan for health care, a plan for whatever they are looking at, and we'll negotiate.
But are Democrats interested in anything but resistance? Brandon Straka is the founder of the #Walkaway campaign, and he joins us again. Nice to have you back with us.
Great to be back. Thank you.
So what about that? I mean, Donald Trump, the art of the deal, he's a deal maker at heart, but he has to have the other side of the aisle willing to negotiate. Do you think Democrats are willing to do that?
Sadly, no. I don't think that they're willing to do that. Again, it's like a broken record. Resist, resist, resist. And it doesn't matter what the man puts forward. forward. Here he is offering, let's have bipartisan support on certain of these issues that are good for all Americans. I mean, many of them aren't even controversial, but Democrats want to resist because it's about demonizing this administration again and again.
Let's talk about some of those specifically. We can bring up immigration, ways that he's been willing to work across the aisle, some examples of backed compromise bill. He offered DACA path to citizenship. He offered, to negotiate on the border wall funding.
Right. Well, again, I mean, immigration is an issue where Democrats, I think, have gone completely off the rails and stayed completely off the rails. But
they weren't off the rails on it when President Obama was in office.
Right. Well, it's been politicized. It's been politicized. And unfortunately, I think a lot of this stems back to the media and the media narrative on the left that comes out about this, where race has really been weaponized in this country. And so it's not about safety and security, which is what conservatives have been pushing for a long time. That's all this president wants for us is safety and security. That's what conservatives want. Yeah. But liberals and Democrats have framed this issue as racist, as bigoted to have border security. But America, we have more immigrant population in this country than any other country. America is a notoriously generous country. But again, it all really comes down to demonizing the administration.
Yeah, and demonizing. Let's listen. I do want to pull this up. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, just a couple of things that they had to say. Some examples. Listen to this.
Let me tell you something. I don't usually find myself in agreement with this president.
It may be a compromise with the devil, but it's not a compromise with the Democrats.
Negotiating with this White House is like negotiating with Jell-O. It's next to impossible.
A compromise with the devil, negotiating with Jell-O.
Right. And these are wasted opportunities, I think, that where we are right now, because, again, we have a president who isn't even really a staunch conservative Republican. I mean, this is, for all intents and purposes, a pretty liberal Republican
And Republicans were worried about that before he took office, that he would work too closely with Democrats.
Right. I think it's a very sad, wasted time that we're in right now, this era, because this really is a time where I think Americans could be coming together. We have a president who I think really sort of represents both sides. If one side, that being the left, would acknowledge that there is a guy in office who wants what's best for everybody. I mean, this is a good time, I think, for all Americans. They're wasting the chance.
Yeah, that's why I also wish, like a lot of the celebrities and a lot of the athletes who have been so outspoken about the president, I wish they would meet with him as well, because they could lead and we could bring this country together.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I think they care more about their public image than they care about doing what's best for America.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Great stuff. Well, the time now is about 8 minutes until the top of the hour, and a town waging a war on Christmas over one man's incredible display.
A bunch of Grinches, and they're always going to be a Grinch. You can never make them happy. It's my religious right. It's my First Amendment right.
Why this real-life Clark Griswold is being billed $2,000 per day just to keep the lights on. A Christmas controversy, a New Jersey town demanding that a couple pay $2,000 a day for this incredible light show that is at their home.
A bunch of Grinches, and they're always going to be a Grinch. You can never make them happy. It's my religious right. It's my First Amendment right.
It's a lot of lights, and Tom Abruzzi's neighbors say that his annual Christmas light display is drawing so many people that their neighborhood is becoming unsafe. The town now demanding that he pay for extra police security. Abruzzi started a fundraiser to cover the cost, but he refuses to turn off the lights. I think they look pretty cool. I don't live in the neighborhood, though. Well, in other news, completely switching gears, 16 U.S. postal workers are staring at some jail time for wanting to make some extra cash. They were sentenced for accepting bribes as low as $250 to deliver cocaine in Atlanta. Federal agents posed as drug dealers nabbed the mail workers after recording their deals. Each worker will serve between 3 and 9 years behind bars. Well, finally, enough time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Up first, the good. And we are proud to report that Fox News is the most watched network on cable for the 29th straight month. Nielsen Media Research says Fox averages 1.5 million viewers every day and nearly 2.5 million during prime time. And a big thank you to all of our viewers. Thanks. Now to that, a cyclist narrowly escaping this oncoming train. Some chilling video showing the moment the biker goes across a crossing in the Netherlands as the speeding train barely misses him. A rail safety agency posting the video to show the dangers of unguarded crossings. And finally, the ugly. Police are searching for an Amazon driver who hit a parked car and then just took off. The man making a delivery outside a home in Tampa, Florida, after smashing the parked car. He checked out the damage before scurrying back to his vehicle and then driving right off. Well, that wraps up this hour of Fox and Friends First today. Have a great day. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Bye-bye.